The midterms are now just 3 weeks away. No time to hold anything back. Tonight, the focus was on the 2nd congressional district race. Republican Scott Taylor, Democrat Elaine Luria in the same place taking on big issues. 13 News Now reporter Megan Puryear was there.
David, at the forum tonight, both candidates were presented with similar questions so the public could judge their answers against one another. But the main topic was their opinions on the environment.
The Chesapeake Bay Foundation had an open forum at the Brock Center Monday night on different issues impacting the environment. Members of the public came to hear the opinions of congressional candidates, incumbent Scott Taylor and challenger Elaine Luria. As the sun set and seats filled, moderator Quentin Kidd began the questioning.
What policy solutions do you propose and support to ensure that our 2nd District communities are protected from the effects of sea level rise and reoccurrent flooding?
You know, for this region, it's really a national security issue, and I think at the federal level, we need to have an advocate in Washington who will go there with this as a national security issue. We really need to seek strong investments in our infrastructure, and we need to make sure we have the resources to do that from the federal level.
Taylor also says it's a big issue.
We are the 2nd most vulnerable area in the nation to recurrent flooding and sea level rise. We were able to put language in that is now law that prioritizes DOD to work with localities and states to deal with access roads.
When it came to offshore drilling, Luria says she's permanently opposed to it.
It's also a national defense issue to interfere with military readiness. The localities, Virginia Beach and Norfolk and others, have passed resolutions to say we don't want offshore drilling. And not only that, but it's bad for the environment.
It's one of the several topics the candidates agreed on.
I'm against it. I'm against offshore drilling. I think I need to make that very clear. We actually proposed 2 amendments to ban it off the coast of Virginia and ban it off the coast or off the East Coast.
Wind turbines, do you support offshore wind?
I support anything that makes sense. It creates high-paying mechanical jobs because to work on them turbines, it's really good. It's high-paying. So we also, if we do move in that direction, I think we also have to have some skills developed to be able to teach people to be able to work on turbines.
As for Luria, she says the wind is the future too.
I think wind is an investment that we can make and have long-term greener, cleaner energy.
Both candidates asked that you come out to vote on November 6th. I'm Megan Puryear, 13 News Now.
Also new tonight, a man badly wounded after he was shot in Norfolk. The call came in around 7 o'clock. A man was shot on Crick Street off of Robin Hood Road. Police have not released any suspect information at this time. Another man was shot tonight, this time in Hampton. A man was shot several times, we're told, on Kecoughtan Road. Police tweeted that the man's injuries are pretty serious. The motive and details surrounding the shooting are still under investigation. However, if you have any information about either of these shootings, call the crime line. A Suffolk woman is behind bars tonight facing some pretty disturbing charges. She's charged with not just abusing animals, but also having sex with them. This is 42-year-old Christina Patterson, who now faces 6 counts of crimes against nature. Things like bestiality, carnally knowing an animal, and 6 counts of animal cruelty.
Mrs. Patterson is ready to defend herself in court if necessary, but at this stage she has not been indicted or charged with any crime.
That's what Christina Patterson's lawyer at the time told us months ago, but that's all changed. In July of 2017, Suffolk police executed a search warrant at a home Patterson shared with her husband, Richard. A host of law enforcement agencies were there and seized computers and videos of the couple engaged in sex acts of bestiality. Andrew Sachs is Richard Patterson's lawyer.
The conduct of 2 consenting adults in the United States of America in the privacy of their bedroom with respect to their sexual activities is nobody's business.
Sachs' recent argument to 13 News Now will be tested in court. Richard Patterson's currently behind bars facing gun charges, and we're told any additional charges for sex with animals would move forward after that matter is dealt with. As for the search warrant used to go through the couple's home and collect the animal videos, Andrew Sachs told us recently he has questions about whether it was an overreach. Right now, still a lot of questions about a house explosion in Chesapeake. Witnesses describe it as a ball of flames. It was felt blocks away. It happened just before 6 last night on LaFerneau Road in Deep Creek. 9 people were injured, 2 seriously, and 2 firefighters also were hurt. The fire marshal has determined the fire is natural gas related, but the question tonight is, who's responsible? Columbia Gas Company or possibly the homeowner?
It's a massive devastating, just violent explosion that happened. Our main goal here is the criminal piece, making sure that we can rule that out, and then trying to, once we rule that out, determine what actually did cause this fire.
Columbia Gas told us a preliminary investigation indicates they did not contribute to the explosion. Now keep in mind, the company's been linked to a series of pipeline explosions in Massachusetts and West Virginia. Federal investigators say they're not looking into the incident in Chesapeake at this time. The two people who lived in the destroyed home are still in the hospital. A man who lives next door says he didn't have time to think last night before rushing into the burning home to save his neighbor. The fire spread to his home, and now his home is condemned. As he and his family try to figure out how to start over, their hearts go out to their neighbors.
Where me and my children are going to live is the hardest thing, walking through my home and seeing everything destroyed.
House is not a house no more.
That family is a temporary place to stay thanks to the Red Cross. Tonight we are still trying to find out how the people are doing who were inside the house at the time of that explosion. Billionaire Paul Allen has died. He co-founded Microsoft with his childhood friend Bill Gates. Allen reportedly died in Seattle of complications from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Allen and Bill Gates founded Microsoft in 1975. Their big break came in 1980 when IBM moved into personal computers and asked Microsoft to provide the operating system. Both later dedicated themselves to philanthropy. In the last few decades, Allen donated more than $2 billion to a wide range of causes, from scientific research to homelessness. A big move by Sears today, the retailer filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Sears is said to be drowning in debt. The company's closing 142 stores before the end of the year. Liquidation sales expected to begin soon. People just don't shop the way they used to.
They were still living in a very old world. And I think on top of that, I think the owners, the management, the board were very real estate focused.
Sears goes way back. It started as a mail-order catalog in the 1880s. It has just one store in Hampton Roads. That is in Newport News. New information on Stormy Daniels' defamation lawsuit against President Trump. A federal judge in Los Angeles dismissing the suit today. The porn star claims she had an affair with Trump in 2006. President Trump calls it a con job. Her lawyer says they will appeal and that they believe today's ruling will be reversed. Meanwhile, Stormy Daniels' lawsuit over a hush money deal is pending. Right now, a search is underway for a 13-year-old girl in Wisconsin. Her parents were found dead in their home overnight. Authorities issued an Amber Alert saying the girl was likely taken from her home at gunpoint. Reporter Joe Mason has the story.
It's a mystery.
Fear and worry tonight from parents at Riverview Middle School in Barron.
Too close to home, way too close to home.
After 8th grade student, 13-year-old Jamie Kloss went missing.
She seemed to be a very happy-go-lucky, young, vibrant young lady.
Early Monday morning, the sheriff's office received a 911 call from inside the Kloss home. Deputies found Jamie's mother and father dead inside. Jamie was nowhere to be found.
This is nothing I've ever seen in my 20 years of law enforcement.
Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald says they don't know who made that 911 call, but there was no one on the line. They aren't saying how the couple died, but bullet casings were found at the scene.
Something took place, I just don't know what, and that's part of the problem, some of the frustration that we're having.
They are checking her social media accounts, looking for any clues where she may be.
We have a 13-year-old girl who's vanished, and we need to get a hold of her to make sure she's okay.
Back at Jamie's school, parents praying she will be found safe.
I pray that God that she's safe and they find her.
I'm hoping and praying with God's help and the community that we all rally around each other and help find this girl and bring her home.
Authorities say they'd never been called to that home until last night. Deputies say they did not find any weapons inside. The FBI has been called. An apparent murder-suicide is under investigation tonight in Elizabeth City. The sheriff's office says it got a call yesterday about a suicide attempt on Sawyer Road. When deputies arrived, they found a 53-year-old woman who they believe took her own life. Then, deputies also found a 70-year-old man who had been shot to death. The man and woman lived at the home. The sheriff's office is investigating this as a murder-suicide. Someone fired several shots on the interstate overnight in Hampton. State police say there were 2 shootings on I-64. It happened around 1:45 this morning near Mercury Boulevard and Hampton Road Center Parkway. One man said he was shot while driving, but he didn't realize it until he got home. He went to the hospital and was treated. In the second incident, a car was hit several times by bullets. There were 5 people in that car, including 2 kids. No one was shot, but a boy was hit by broken glass. State police are still trying to figure out who fired those shots.